Happy Sunday evening, everybody. Meteorologist Hunter Forst here. Welcome to Hurricane Hub Live, the show where we talk about everything that's going on in the tropics. And we have a few things to talk about this evening. But the good news is nothing that really is a threat. And that's exactly what we like to see, especially as we get closer to the peak of hurricane season, which is September 10th. And we are, I was going to say slowly but surely approaching, but this summer has flown by. So we are quickly getting to this peak of hurricane season. And right now we have Tropical Storm Fernand out there right now. As of the 5 o'clock advisory, winds 45 miles an hour, so up 5 miles per hour from this time yesterday. So it hasn't really strengthened much over the last 24 hours, but over the next day or so, it'll strengthen a little bit. It's about 200 miles to the east of Bermuda right now. And as we head into the day tomorrow, could strengthen up to about 60 miles per hour, but not expected to become a hurricane. So some good news there. But even if it did, it would just still move out into the central Atlantic and then start to weaken once again. And by the time we get into Tuesday and especially Wednesday of the upcoming work week, Fernand is out of here. It's going to dissipate or become subtropical. It's going to enter an area where it's not favorable for continuing to develop or strengthen. It's going to enter cooler water. It's going to encounter more wind shear, and it's just going to fly on out. So that's exactly what we like to see. Here's a look at the tropical satellite of Fernand. Seeing some convection out there, but it's not a very big storm. It's, you know, a tiny tropical storm making its way through the Atlantic. Seeing some convection around the center. So you're trying to see it, you know, maintain its strength, or it's trying to strengthen a bit. And that's what we're expected to see as we head into the day tomorrow. But after that, not much more hope for that storm. As we take a look at the tropical alerts for Bermuda, no tropical storm warnings, no tropical storm watches. So that's the good news. Again, if you are expecting to see or expecting to go to Bermuda over the next couple of days or take a cruise, things should be A-OK. But let's take a look at Invest 99L. So there's Fernand up there in the central Atlantic. There's Bermuda, but then down to the south, we have Invest 99L. If you remember this time yesterday, this area here was in orange. Now it's in yellow, which is a good sign because that means the chances of development have gone down. So this time yesterday, there was about a 40% chance of development over the next 2 to 7-ish days. But now there's only about a 30% chance. So we're going in the right direction. But this Invest has been going up and down for the last couple of days in terms of chances of development. One day it's, you know, it's really trying to get its act together, then the next it's not. But luckily, we're going in that right direction where those chances are starting to come down. But let's take a look at the tropical satellite heading towards the islands. Not a whole bunch of convection right now around that center at about 8 o'clock. There was a bit more earlier this afternoon, and especially yesterday, if you remember, there was a lot of convection around the area of around, you know, the center-ish area. But right now, not a whole lot. So it's entering an environment where there's a little bit of wind shear, a little bit of Saharan dust, but there is a good amount of warm water. Let's take a look at the spaghetti plot. As it continues to trek off towards the west, it's really going to stay south of Hispaniola, San Juan, you know, whatever it is. It's most likely just going to continue to be, you know, an area of thunderstorms and disorganized showers. But the good news is we have that high pressure system off towards our north, and it's a weaker system. So normally weaker systems kind of stay further down to the south. And this high pressure system is going to help keep it down there. And that's why we have that, you know, these spaghetti models keeping it, you know, due west, south, just to the north, you know, of Venezuela, Aruba. And then if it decides to become something, a lot of the models take it into Central America. If it, you know, does become a tropical depression, which chances are, again, slowly going down compared to where we were this time yesterday. But if we take a peek at the sea surface temperatures, of course, this time of year, we start to reach the peak heating of the ocean. You know, by the time we get into September, it's really where you see the warmest waters. And right now, where this Invest is, you know, temperatures are in the 80s, mid to lower 80s, a few upper 80s around there, especially around the Bahamas. That's where you see the really, really warm waters, but warm enough to support tropical development and growth. But when you have things like shear and Saharan dust, that hinders that growth and development. So that's what you like to see. They're kind of like roadblocks in front of this, and it helps, not have, a huge storm in the Caribbean, because that sometimes you get a invest like this making its way into the Caribbean, and it can explode this time of year. Sometimes the environment is unfavorable for development in the Caribbean, but sometimes it could be really, conducive. But luckily, we'll see some wind shear as this continues to push off towards the west, but not a whole lot of wind shear. And of course, the shear acts to squash any development. But as we get into Monday, we see those spaghetti models pushing it towards the west. There is a little bit of shear here, but if it wants to try and get its act together, there isn't a whole lot where it would completely squash those chances. So even though there's a 30% chance, there's a low end chance it'll become a depression, it's still something to watch as we go throughout the next couple of days. And it'll, again, continue to push on off towards the west if it was to become something. Let's take a look at the vorticity. We have Fernand here off towards the north. There's Bermuda. And then we have the invest down around the islands, entering the Caribbean. A little bit of spin, the Euro model has. Yeah, Fernand going off. It tries to, maybe be like, yeah, maybe it'll become a depression-ish, but it kind of squashes it and takes it, over towards the, over Central America as we get into the middle of the upcoming work week. So that's great. And then after that, there isn't really a whole bunch going on. And we're Wednesday, Thursday of next week. We're getting towards the peak of the season. Not seeing a lot with vorticity here in the main development region, where this is the area where you see a lot of development this time of year. You have those waves coming off the coast of Africa. You have warm waters. You have less of that Saharan dust. So it could become really active, kind of like what we were just seeing over the last week or so. But as we get towards the end of August and into September, not a whole lot. So it is really great to see, especially as we get into Labor Day weekend. There isn't going to be much to worry about in regards of the tropics. So you can just go on about your day, have a great party with your friends for Labor Day weekend. Excuse me. You have Monday off, and you don't have to worry about the tropics if you're close to the coast. Let's take a look, though, about what's coming up on HHL. Excuse me. Sorry, got something in my throat, I think. All right. So coming up after the break, we're going to talk about a hurricane that made landfall in Florida 33 years ago today. And then after that, I have the answer to Hurricane Hub Live trivia. This is coming up after the break. Well, welcome back to Hurricane Hub Live. Meteorologist Hunter Forst here. Let's talk about a specific hurricane, a very well-known hurricane that made landfall in Florida 33 years ago. Back in 1992, you may know a hurricane called Hurricane Andrew. Yeah, made landfall as a Category 5 storm near Homestead, Florida. It all started as a tropical depression, of course, in the main development region. That's normally where you see the activity this time of year. It trekked towards the west over a couple of days, made its way north of Hispaniola as a Category 1 storm. This is similar, to where Aaron was, if you remember Aaron, but Aaron took a completely different path. Instead of, going towards the west, towards Florida, it went luckily in between Bermuda and the East Coast. But Andrew made a left turn towards the Bahamas, unfortunately made landfall in Florida, and then another landfall in Louisiana as a Category 4. So it had two major hurricane landfalls, Hurricane Andrew back in 1992, and was one of the costliest hurricanes ever recorded in U.S. history. So it made landfall first actually on Elliott Key, Florida, which is one of those little keys. They look like the Florida Keys. Right near Miami, near Homestead, Florida. And then the second landfall, the second technical landfall, was near Homestead on August 24th with max sustained winds of 165 miles an hour. It's one of only 4 Category 5 hurricanes to make landfall in the U.S. So it is a very rare phenomenon to have a Cat 5 making landfall in the U.S. here, which is great, but it is just, devastating when it happens, even though it doesn't happen very often. It's responsible for 23 direct deaths in the United States and caused $27 billion in damage, but that's in 1992 dollars. So if you were to convert that to today's money, it'd be much more expensive. So just a devastating, strong storm, Hurricane Andrew, 33 years ago. All right, let's talk about Hurricane Hub Live trivia. Yesterday, we were talking about what is the 5 category scale used to classify hurricanes by wind speed. What is that called? Does anyone know? Is it the Enhanced Fujita scale? Is it the Saffir-Simpson scale, the Richter scale, or Beaufort scale? Well, here is the answer. It is Saffir-Simpson scale. Yep, that helps classify hurricanes by wind speed. You have Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3, and Cat 4. EF scale is for tornadoes. Richter scale, that is for earthquakes. But that's your trivia for today. It has been great to be here for the weekend on Hurricane Hub Live. I appreciate you joining me today. We'll be back again tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Tim Pandages will be back, and we'll be here every day at 8 o'clock. Join us and have a great rest of your evening.